Hi, everybody. Rob Bartenstein back again with another episode of PWS on the Fly. As usual, I am joined by my partner, Scott Wilson, COO of Kestra Private Wealth Services. Hey, Scott.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Great week here in Austin. Just a pleasure to have you guys in town. And I really look forward to chatting about your journey. But it's been a great week hanging out with you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Today, we're joined by Randall Klaiber, Sean O'Riordan, and Chuck Palmer from Kindred Wealth Partners. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you making the time, especially at the end of a very long week. And we were just discussing the fact that whoever scheduled us for this time slot probably deserves a little talking to. But be that as it may, we all made it. Some better than others. Yeah. Unfortunately, Chuck got a little sick along the way, but glad to see you were able to rally and join us for a little bit of time this morning.
Yeah, barely.
Yes. Thanks, man. Okay, let's jump in. I don't know who wants to kind of take the first one, but what we'd love to start with is just give us a quick overview of your team, the folks on the team, and then talk a little bit about the due diligence process that led you from where you were in the Wirehouse to where you are today, and what memories you have of that due diligence process. That'd be a great way to kind of get us rolling.
Well, so we're a team of eight professionals. We have 4 advisors, 4 staff people. Our team had been at Morgan Stanley for 40 to 50 years, actually. We were one of the longest standing teams at Morgan Stanley in the entire company.
Wow, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. Originated back in the late 70s. We had 2 former partners that we have since retired, and we've taken over the book of business. But yeah, we had been there for 40 to 50 years, and essentially the entire team uplifted about a year and a half ago, and went independent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? I mean, I know the answer to this, but I think folks would be interested to hear it. What made you guys decide it was time to do something different?
Yeah, I don't think there was any one singular moment.
Mm-hmm.
We originally were at Smith Barney. Actually, I joined Smith Barney back in 2004, so I was an employee for 20 years. And the old Smith Barney days were great. It felt like how Kestra feels right now. Actually, it felt like a firm with big company resources, but it felt small.
Mm-hmm.
It felt family oriented. There was a lot of trust, right? I think around 2009, 2010, Morgan Stanley and Smith Barney merged, and the culture changed.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It went from a culture of trust to distrust.
Yeah,
you felt like you were looking over your shoulder. Compliance was out to get you. I've said it kind of felt like you're working inside of East Germany.
Yeah,
you had the KGB after you. Right. So it went from a great culture, I felt, to a poor culture. But now we feel like we're back in that trusting culture again.
Yeah.
Being affiliated with Kestra. It just feels good. People, it's a smaller firm feel. The trust is back. It's loosened us up a bit.
Yeah.
And I real quick, like I'm wearing a hoodie right now, right? I'm wearing a hoodie with a suit, and there's a purpose to that.
Yeah.
At Kindred Wealth Partners, we have Hoodie Fridays.
Nice.
Right? And today's Friday. We have Hoodie Fridays.
What's wrong with the rest of the guys?
I think I don't know.
You guys are following the rules.
But
there always needs to be
we don't even know what day it is.
Yeah, that's true. You could not be blamed for not knowing that today is Friday after the week we've all just had.
Right. But this, I'm not a guy much for dress code, sort of like you, Rob.
Yeah.
Right. And so we kind of brought the fun back to Kindred Wealth Partners now that we're independent.
Sure.
Let's have fun. Let's trust each other. It's our business.
So my metaphor for that is, it's the story of Pinocchio, right? We were these puppets held by these wires. And today you're a banker, and we were lying to ourselves that we were protecting our clients from within, and our nose started to grow, and we started to realize something's amiss here. And we did our due diligence, and we looked out there in the world to see what kind of broke away from those wires, went through a little bit of hell through transition. It was definitely a process, and we came out on the other side through this metamorphosis, and we were real boys, right? We're real boys. We can wear a hoodie, we can treat our clients the way we want to treat them. We don't have to do anything else. And it just really reminded me of that story.
That's a good one, man. Nobody's ever made that analogy before, but I'm never going to forget that one. So you guys have a really unique firm name, and you've mentioned it already, but Kindred. Can you talk about how you came up with that and what it means to you guys?
That's probably the toughest part of the whole process, frankly.
Yeah. I think we initially, so the three of us are all kind of outdoorsmen, and we love, fishing, hunting, exercising outside, those types of things. And we tried to come up with it was a long process. We tried to come up with something that combined Pittsburgh and outdoors and steel and like all this other stuff. And nothing ever took hold. And then I think you might have put us in touch with Mark Schoenbeck, and we had probably, 2 or 3 or 4 calls with Mark, where he just, asked us to start throwing ideas off the wall and start describing our client base and what meant the most to us and things. And at some point we got to I think one of our main attributes of our clients we have multi-generational families as a large part of our client base. And so we went down that road and, sort of identified a few different words and names and things that, what meant family, what meant, multi-generational, and Kindred basically came out of that process. And it just was something that resonated with, I think, all three of us, pretty much right off the bat. And that's how we got there.
That's a great story. And, kudos to Mark for helping you through that process.
Yeah.
I think we got to give him credit for about 50% of the names, right? I mean, he's really...
I remember when we started that process talking about fly fishing, which, I have a passion for. I'm not nearly as good as Chuck is and Sean, but, we all participate in a privately held fishing club. And I kind of wanted the fly fishing analogy personally, but I think Kindred...
We went fishing before you guys joined.
Yeah.
Right? The first time we went. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they've done a couple of passes at this process as well.
That's true.
Well, you bring up a good point, Rob. We went fishing before we joined.
Yeah.
Before we went independent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of back to that family feel.
Yeah.
When are you able to go fly fishing or play golf or just crack open a beer with the executives of the firm that you're affiliating with?
Plus, when you go fishing for like a couple of days overnight, there's no faking it at that point, right? Like you know who everybody is by the time that's over. No matter how hard you try to be fake or whatever, you can't.
Especially
hold
that first cast when I was hung up in the freebie. Off the very first cast. Yeah, you knew I was then.
Not often you see a grown man cry.
Yeah.
Scott was let down.
Or like me with first one I caught, I'm like, Chuck, can you get the hook out of me?
I don't want to touch it.
It was hilarious. Great. Well, look, we're going to talk about this from a couple of different angles, but you guys, and again, you've referenced it a little bit, but you're a large team with a large business. Tell us what it's like managing that business as independence versus what it was like before at the Wirehouse. How has it changed? Maybe is a better way to say that.
There's this assumption that the Wirehouse has every option under the sun available to you. And what we found out through our due diligence is that was just not a fact. They didn't have best in class product solutions, tools for us to use. So I think from our standpoint now, there's more for us to talk about. There's more for us to think about. There's more strategy in how I implement things for our clients going forward. In every avenue, we've always led with planning, but we could never do any sort of healthcare consulting. So you'd have people retire early. And we're like, well, we'll put a number on it, but we don't know how you're going to figure that one out. Now we have a service through Move Health that helps us do that. And every engagement that we did through Caribou and now Move has been totally eye-opening for a client, something you'll never, ever have at the Wirehouse. So it's just us trying to constantly find these new avenues to service our clients better that we just would have never had
Yeah. No, that's really cool. It makes a lot of sense.
And I also think just so that's kind of client facing. And then in the other direction, I think that one of the reasons, to backtrack for a second, that we left Morgan Stanley was just a steadily declining lack of service from our back office or their back office. And talk about a 180, like we know the names of the people that I email with my compliance supervisor, like, how, help me get this right. I want to make sure I can get this right. There was an inbox that I don't even know where my inquiry would have went to previously. I know the name of the person now. I email them directly, or I can call them directly, which is, one of the things I think we envisioned when we made the move was much better service. I'm not sure that we really thought we'd know the names of the people per se, but we do. And that's something I always tell people or teams that are considering, making this transition, is that's one of the huge benefits, I think, of independence, of working at Kestra or with Kestra.
And we've done some of that same stuff. I mean, Randy, you and I have worked on some customization on trading. And I know you work directly with the trading desk, and
Yep.
you know Sam well, and you're calling, you're not running it through us anymore, right? We sort of help you get going and get the introductions, and you all go direct with the people that make the decisions. And that's what we're proud of. I mean, we're facilitators. We're here to help you get, bring, in a fully supported model. Time is really critical. And I think you all have really taken advantage of that. And I know for a fact, Sam loves working with you, and, the ICAP folks and all the alts business and the lending, that whole package you guys are working directly with the right folks.
Yeah, that's a great segue, because I wanted to touch on alternatives, because you guys have a really strong background in that area. And let's talk a little bit about how you integrate that into the client experience, where it makes sense, when it makes sense, in your opinion. And then how have you found the bench, so to speak, in the independent space versus back at the wirehouse? What's the difference there? If we could talk about that for a minute, I think it'd be interesting.
Sure. I think, we started implementing alts and structured with our clients almost a decade ago. And the product set at that time was not nearly as accessible and diverse as it is now. And we were really afraid that piece of our business that we thought added a lot of value to our relationships was an anchor for us, and we were going to be a little bit stuck. And that was really part of our due diligence process. That was really one of the linchpins to the due diligence. Can another firm handle this and help us maintain that piece of our business, then also grow it, right?
Yeah.
So we started doing alternatives when iCapital was in its infancy and really wasn't I'm going to call it the behemoth it is today. And I think Kestra, the progress they've made even since we've transitioned in that space, has been phenomenal. And it keeps getting better. The iCapital platform, I think, offers everything that we need to kind of manage that business. And I think the investment team has been really good about doing their due diligence and offering new solutions in that space, and they take feedback.
Yep.
You've given a lot of feedback on things that you think would be good to implement, and they take it to heart.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think everything Randy said is true. I think we met Karen, who kind of runs alternatives at Kestra, both times, that we came to Austin, and we had a good feel for her and her desire to grow that part of the business. But I think also for us, it was comforting knowing that John Amore came from UBS, which is also a large, alternative platform. And so, we were comfortable that he also would want to grow that business. Now the new, incoming president the fact that alternatives is going to remain a focus, I guess, for Kestra and for wealth management gave us a lot of comfort.
We were super excited when John came aboard, and it took a while, but all things like this do. But to finally get to the other side of the river, so to speak, with the integration of iCapital and have that process really grooved in has changed the game in so many ways.
A couple things that I've noticed about your group. You two have been involved on the high net worth sort of alt group that John put together. And I think that's the uniqueness of this firm. Bring 20 minds together that can speak freely about good, bad, and ugly, right? And stuff that you'd like to see changed. And they listen to you, as you just said. I know you do structured. You guys interact with other Kestra Private Wealth teams to, help each other build structured notes through the First Trust or AAM. So those little things we take notice to, and I assume you feel like that's been a positive, the interaction with other teams as well on the structured.
Yeah, I mean, nobody has a monopoly on good ideas, right?
Right.
It's nice to be able to collaborate with other people and learn things. It makes us better, and we hope we can make other people better. And
Sure. Yeah.
I think you bring up a good point. You talk about voice. We feel like we've got a voice, whether not just about alternative investments,
sure.
but just in other areas of how Kestra runs their business and helps, to support the advisors and the firms that you've brought on board.
Yeah.
Even like Randy said, in the last year and a half since we've been affiliated with Kestra, we've seen noticeable changes for the better. And so you guys clearly take feedback. You don't have the monopoly on good ideas.
Well, yeah, no. Well, we know where most of the good ideas come from, right? I mean, they come from you guys and guys like you. So we want to be ears open and feel very comfortable knowing that you guys have a seat at the table. I think and I'm not talking about anybody at Kestra. I think some firms have sort of a phobia about letting advisors get too close. You know what I mean? Like, don't let them get behind the curtain, for whatever reason. And I don't think that mentality exists here at all. And I think we're big beneficiaries of that.
It doesn't. One of the things we appreciate, if the answer is no, somebody explains to us exactly why at this point it's no.
That's right.
Which is super helpful, because then they can also say, and because of that, this is when it might be a yes, but this is where we need to get to. That's really helpful for how we think about the evolution of our business and what's to come.
Yep.
It helps us to have line of sight about for what's coming, so we can strategically plan.
And that's always been a foundational cultural element from my perspective and Scott's perspective. It's like, number one, a quick no is a good no. Don't drag it out. Don't make me wait. Number two, tell me why so I understand it. And, look, we were advisors for a long time. Like, I think just understanding that that's how most advisors want to communicate, even when the answer isn't what they're hoping for, we've always done it that way. And I think we always will do it that way. But that's how you want to do business. That's how you want to live your life.
I remember that from our very first time we met you. Actually, you in Austin, you described it as, if you're at a Wirehouse, it's like you asked to do something. No.
Yeah.
All right. What did you want to do again?
Right.
And then,
exactly.
And then from here,
no.
it's like,
What's your question?
Yeah. What's your here? It's kind of like maybe not, but let's talk about how we can try to help you get it done. Which
or some variation on that theme. Right. Yeah.
You're being treated as an adult.
Yeah.
There's trust.
And you can wear your hoodie.
Everybody,
right.
You can wear the hoodie.
And I think this is important. We did 2 rounds of due diligence. We did a round about 6 years ago, and we met with you guys.
Yep.
And at that time, we just weren't ready. We didn't, we weren't convinced that because of our alts and some of the other factors we had going on, it was the right timing for us. Second round of due diligence, we met with you guys again, and everything that you said you were going to do, you had done. And that was really comforting and eye-opening. And I think that's what's important probably for other people to know is we saw it. And we're telling you
that's a unique experience, because most people don't get that sort of a window, right?
It's interesting. When we went through that process 5-6 years ago, and then again 2 or 3 years ago, we came to the same conclusion both times.
Yeah.
That if we're going to leave, we're going to go with Rob and Scott and Kestra.
Yeah.
Yeah, we came to the same decision both times.
I'm glad we didn't lose our fastball somewhere in the middle. Hey, I want to change gears for a minute, because unfortunately, we don't have unlimited time. But I want to switch over to real estate. And you guys, as we've talked about, you're running a big business, almost like a mini regional, multiple locations, different states. Let's talk a little bit about that. And Scott, if you want to, lead us through that.
Yeah, when we first met, you all had some partners that had built businesses sort of in the region. West Virginia and Ohio and obviously Pennsylvania. We always try to work with you. And I think what was nice, we gave you a budget and we said, you know the markets better than we do. Tell us how to spend that budget and where. And so walk us through sort of if you felt like that was a fair, like we met in the middle and that was a fair process and sort of why you decided to be in Columbus and why you're in obviously the hubs in Pittsburgh.
I'm just trying to remember back to that time frame. And so I think it was, you did give us the budget and then we worked with Kevin. And these guys, I think initially just gave Kevin, here's where we need to be, or we think we need to be in and around Pittsburgh. And it was we're trying to also make sure that it was equidistant from everyone's homes so that we still wanted to have an in-office culture. And that was important to us to maintain. So that location was established first with Kevin's help. And a build out was kind of, was designed, I guess, for that office. And then once we knew what that was going to entail, then we built, or I knew what was left for Columbus. I knew Columbus pretty well and just had an idea of where I wanted to be there. And it wasn't really that, I don't think anyway, I would wonder what Kevin would say about it, but it wasn't that difficult for me to fit into what was left over as the budget. And then working with Kevin was very easy. I mean, we sort of just told him what we wanted. He would go design a layout or design work with an architect to come back to us and then would say, here's what I've got for you. Any changes, and then from there, the process, he just took over the process, and more or less we walked in on day one to a brand new, beautiful, both offices, brand new, beautiful offices.
Nice. He's a bulldog for sure. I mean,
absolutely.
Very nice.
A lot of credit to Kevin about that process.
So, and part of the reason for the two offices is, that name, that kindred, that family. A lot of our clients, 40 years ago started in the greater Pittsburgh area, Weirton, West Virginia area, and then their families have just spread. We have clients in 30 some odd states. We try to see all those clients as often as we can. And then having kind of the multiple offices also gave us more at bats to grow and meet more people. So we've had space at both offices that,
and that's part of the strategy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I know we want you to have extra offices so you can grow. The budget is designed to give that additional space. We find when people sort of set up their own firms, they skimp a little bit on real estate. They skimp a little bit on the low voltage. They skimp a little bit on the cable, the internet. I mean, all those things to us, we'd rather build it out and prepare you for growth. And then you can add new people like you did. I mean, you were able to find somebody to plug into that space, and we're going to do the same thing in Columbus. So
home runs, no two ways about it. We're running short of time, so let me ask a couple of quick ones. Big business again, lots of clients, lots of assets. Were you guys at all surprised that everybody came with you? We weren't, but I know you're worried. Everybody worries about that in the transition, right? Before you go, were you surprised? And then how has your relationship with your clients changed from Wirehouse to independence?
Yeah, I don't think we were surprised that we were successful. We were worried. Worried as heck. I mean, you walk out the door with no clients.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking no matter how confident you are, right?
Yeah, you walk out the door with no clients, and you're going to get some surprises both ways. Not 100% of the clients didn't come with us.
Yeah.
But there were some clients that we weren't sure that were going to come with us who did.
We talked about this before you broke, right?
Yeah.
So you get surprised in both directions a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But I think if our team's been around for 40 years. We work with a lot of multi-generational families, and I think we do a good job for these families. So, if you're doing a good job, they're going to follow you.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's the relationship that will carry the day.
And the trust.
Yeah.
Right? They trust that you're making a good decision because they've seen you make good decisions with them for a long period of time.
Yeah. I would say, a lot of the feedback we got from our clients was, congratulations. Like they want to see.
They want you to win.
They care about us. They care about our team.
It's definitely true.
They, congratulated us on starting our new business, right?
And they ask all the time now, how's the business going?
Yeah. No, they want you to win.
They really do. They want to know that we're growing and are feeling.
Well, you did a great job of building the infrastructure. I mean, you've got a team of amazing people. Like when I walk into Pittsburgh and I see that office and what you've built, you've got a COO, you've got a service strategy, you've got a junior advisors,
We're here and everything's just running with us being here.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's impressive. That to me stands out. To get over $500 million over, that is a big feat, and congratulations. That's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's pretty cool too what Randy said. If you think about it from the perspective of an advisor who never leaves the wirehouse, right? They spend 30 years or whatever. That's their career. They never have an opportunity for their clients to show them that love, and tell them like, hey, we really want you. And clients just don't. In that environment, it's like, okay, it's, business as usual, right?
Yeah.
But when you make that change, it's such a significant thing. And the clients, they love you as much as you love them. Most people that don't make that change never get to hear that sort of interaction with their clients, which I think, look, for all of us, that means a lot,
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lot of hard work most days, right? And the compliments are few and far between because it's just business most of the time. But when you get to hear that, I think it means a lot. So that's really cool. All right, look, we're going to have to wrap it up. Tanner's given us the hook. So let me just ask a couple of quick questions here. Are there any quotes or bits of wisdom that you guys fall back on repeatedly? Like, is there anything that is such a part of you all that it's permeating your culture in your firm? Any sayings or bits of wisdom like that?
I think about the scene from Shawshank Redemption where he crawls through a mile of crap,
right,
to get out the other side as a free man.
Yeah,
and
we've had some good analogies today.
The transition's not easy.
Yeah,
anybody listening here considering it, like it's not easy. You do crawl through a mile of crap to get there, right?
Yeah.
But man, you come out clean and feeling pretty good on the other side.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think we've heard that from pretty much everyone we've done a podcast with. They pretty much all say, it was hard. I wouldn't want to have to do it again, but I'm so glad I did it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like we don't hear anybody saying, I wish I hadn't done it. Thank God, Yep. All right. That's great. We'll leave it there. But guys, thanks again.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your success.
Really proud of you.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
You guys have an unbelievable firm.
Nice.
I think this is a great perspective for people that are thinking about doing what you've done, to see a different kind of group of folks come together and do it in a really big way. So it's a really unique perspective, and we appreciate the time. So that'll do it for us. This has been another episode of Kestra on the Fly. We'll see you next time.